You got to listen to this episode. We're talking about monkeys that took over a town in Thailand, and we're not talking about Planet of the Apes either. Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with REMAX, the Golfi Team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show, Niagara Edition, with host Tim Dennis.
Yep, the Golfi Show is on the air for another week as we go through a business it seems to be turning this corner. And we've said that for a few weeks, that it was coming. Seems to be happening now, doesn't it, Rob?
It is happening. You know what? And I was just thinking earlier this week that I was talking to somebody and they said, hey, do you think do you think the market's still going to come down? Nope. I said, we hit rock bottom November, December, and a little bit in January, but not much, just the beginning. And now things are starting to come around. Things are coming along. Now it's funny how that goes. It was a very, like, we're talking about halfway 2022, like basically May, June till the end of 2022, right to the end of 2023. So 18 months of, some tough things. And that's when all the interest rates went up pretty well. That's when interest rates started climbing. And so now it's hit bottom. Now things are starting to change. There's still good deals out there. We just listed a property earlier this past week, and you're not going to believe this was a super deal. The house needed a lot of work, but it was $350,000, and it was insane. So we ended up selling for $360,000. It was a good deal. Somebody has to put probably some money into it, and good stuff off of Niagara Street.
Yep.
And but yeah, we're starting to see more buyers coming out. In Toronto, they're starting to get multiple offers. That's a big market, a lot of people, multiple offers on houses there. And now it's just going to start climbing back up again. So right now we're at ground zero, in my opinion. 10 years from now or less, I think that whatever you buy now is going to be worth double or more. So you're in good hands. So now the people that did buy in early 2022 and they felt they overpaid for it, just hang in there. You're gonna surpass what you paid for it. It's gonna come soon, and you're gonna be good. You're gonna be in good shape. So, but if you're looking for quick flips, those are gonna take a little time. They're going to take a little time, but the market is turning around. People are kind of coming back, because everybody was sitting on the fence for a long time, and now they think, okay, we just got to do it. What are we going to do? And now the positive news is coming out. And now, just as I was just looking in the paper on Friday's paper, it did say economists have said that we did hit bottom. And I knew we hit bottom weeks and weeks ago. So, I mean, like I said, I know the news before the news comes out because I'm in the trenches. I'm working it. I know what's going on. So that's why the public doesn't get that till after all the numbers are in. I get it while we're working it week by week.
What gives it away to you? Is it that there's some competition happening that wasn't happening before? Is that what's going on?
The phone ringing, the people talking, the sales that are happening, and I can go by my sales because we're a large team. We're number one REMAX team in Canada, probably one of the top 2-3 teams in Canada, and we have a good indicator. We're a good indicator of how the market is going, because we deal with the public. I'm face to face with them. I know what they're thinking. I know what they want to do, and I know what their anticipation and everything is. So when you know the mental aspect of it, your stats are right there on the spot. Now, sometimes the real estate board doesn't, adds all that up at the end of the month, and they spit it out and they send it to everybody, and that's how they get their numbers. I get it day by day, week by week, and I know what's going on, and it's tough. I could tell you, market changes like instantly. So for instance, I remember years ago, and I think it was 2000. I can't remember if it was 2016. The market was unbelievable, and from February right to the end of May, just rocking. I'm telling you, like multiple offers. We were holding offers. It was just going like gangbusters, and we listed 3 properties, and I might have said this on the show before if people listen to us all the time, but I remember we listed 3 properties first week of June, and we were holding offers, and we got 0 showings, and we knew the market changed. So then right away, I you take Plan B, you go to Plan B. I said, okay, we're taking that off. We're not doing that because we know the market changed. Now, most agents would not know the market changed till the end of the month or the following month, because they may have 1 or 2 listings and they don't know if it's the price of their listing. They don't know if it's the economy. They don't know if it's whatever the market is. They don't know. But I do know, because when you have 3 great listings that we just listed within 2 days of each other, and we list quite a few properties, we knew the market changed. So we changed it from not holding offers to just putting 48 hours irrevocable. Irrevocable means that, hey, listen, if you've got an offer, fantastic. We will deal with it within 1 hour to 48 hours, just depending on what's going on. And so people, because they didn't want to compete anymore. And so we shifted and pivoted right away. But most people can't do that because they don't know the market.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear this, because I know the last few times that we've talked about it on the air, you've kind of said, yeah, it's coming back, but we're not there yet. It's coming back, but we're not there yet. Now, to hear you actually say that it's coming back and the phone calls are starting, this is a really good sign. So we'll get into that a little bit more as the show goes on. But let's talk a little bit about some other things that are happening in the real estate business, and some of them are funny. Let's start about. Now, we've had stories about parking spaces that have been up on Airbnbs that people are renting out, a half a bedroom or this, that, and the other thing. And there was a story this week of somebody renting out a bunk bed in Toronto.
Yeah, I can't believe it, but I mean, it's gotten to that point. It is expensive out there, and it's going to be expensive forever. That's not going to change. That we just have to accept that. And so if people, especially if somebody's by themselves, single, I mean, it's easy for them to go and rent a bunk bed. People go backpack across Europe and they stay in hostels. Now I've never been in one. I'm assuming that there are big open rooms with beds in there, right? And everybody's sleeping in the same room. Is that the case? Is that true? Or I don't know. But I don't know. I think, in the state that I am now, okay, maybe that's different if I was in my early 20s, but the state that I am now, sleeping in a room with some strangers in one bedroom, I think I'd have a hard time falling asleep. Who knows what this guy's going on in his head? I think 50 years ago, I don't think it would have been a problem, because I think we had more normal people 50 years ago. But today, there's a lot of stuff that's happened over the years that's messed a lot of people up. And
called it prestigious accommodation too. And in your business, there are very famous descriptions of place. We've talked about fixer-uppers and needs a little loving care and whatnot. But it seems to be pushing it a little to say prestigious accommodation when you're talking about a bunk bed with 3 or 4 other people in the room.
I know. But you know what? But if there's nothing else and you need a place to sleep, that's the only choice you got. That's just kind of a stepping stone, hopefully, to the next level, going into maybe a small studio apartment or whatever. But that's just the reality of what's happening in the world right now. The city should approve rooming houses, right? So, and I would get into that. I think that'd be a great thriving business. You open up a rooming house. You got 15, 20 rooms in the house, and each room, maybe they share, 4 people share a bathroom. They have their own little refrigerator. You have a communal area for the kitchen, but every bedroom would have just a small little refrigerator for their own stuff. And they just have a bedroom and with a fridge, and then that's it. And then I think
a little middle-aged lady down in the kitchen who makes dinner for you every night, and you all sit around and eat family style. Right?
That's
Right out of
it.
the
That's
movies.
it. That sounds like a good. That's the next step from renting a bunk bed, I think, and then from there you go to another to a smaller, studio apartment or bachelor apartment. But it's come to that, and so what people are doing is a lot of times, and I remember, you know Portage Bakery in Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he came to Italy, when he came to Canada, he came to Canada first. He stayed with my grandparents and rented a room. And so when he first came here, because he needed a place, right? So he was an immigrant just starting out. So he wasn't there very long. He was able to look at the guy's doing very well now. He owns a lot of properties. He's got a very successful bakery in Niagara Falls. Very nice man. I grew up knowing him, going to the bakery. I didn't live too far. I remember I had to go race on my bike getting bread. My parents say, "Hey, we need a loaf of bread. Go to Portage Bakery," so we would go there. But yeah, when he first came to the country in Niagara Falls, he stayed at my grandparents' house, and so that wasn't a big deal then. And I don't think it is a big deal now for immigrants coming into this country, especially they need the help. But it seems like life is repeating itself. Like it's just one big cycle. But I think life is more expensive now compared to life when it was in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. We got to move on to a couple of other things as well. And I wanted to ask you about a law in Quebec that has been passed, which I know people would be paying attention to this here in Ontario because it basically says you can't lease your or you can't transfer your lease anymore. And as somebody who has seen it from both sides, Rob, as somebody who's rented and somebody who's been a landlord, what do you think of that?
I'm all for it because what was happening there was, so let's say you're paying $1,250 a month rent, right? And you are going to leave, and then you have a friend of a friend or a friend said, "Hey, listen, I'll take over that lease." Meanwhile, it's a month-to-month lease now, but they'll move in even though they don't have a lease while the other person moves out, and they start paying the rent. Well, it didn't give a chance for the landlord to get the rent up to market value, and so the landlord was losing all the time. And so maybe that rent should be at like $2,000, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. I had a guy call me in one of my properties in Grimsby, and he said he's giving me notice, and I said, yeah, okay, the notice is good from the 1st of March, so you got till the end of April. We'll use your last month's rent as rent, and he says, well, I got a friend that might want the place. I said, listen, not a problem. I says, let him fill an application. I'm not but if he was going to move in there, I would have been not happy because now I'm going to check out and see what the market rent is for that apartment. And I'm going to rent it out at market rent. Now I'm free and clear. He's moving out at the end of April and go from there. But now if somebody else went in at the same price, it just goes on and on and on. So, and it hurts the value of the building. And I get it. The renters are going, yeah, well, too bad. We need to have a place to rent. But it's like we're in a business to make money as landlords, as investors. But it's just... It's tough. Like you need to increase the rent. So I had one guy, and this is a true story. I'm just cleaning it up and renovating it. This guy was paying $1,250 a 3-bedroom semi rent. He's been there forever. Anyway, he was ill. He was ill, and he passed away about 2 months ago. And right now, he didn't pass away in my unit. He passed away at the hospital, and he ended up, the family cleaned out the place. I ended up, renovating it, painting it, and everything, getting it ready. So I'm going from $1,250 a month to $2,200 a month. That's the difference in rent that he was savings. That guy was never moving out of there. It was cheaper for him to live there renting than it was for him to even buy a place. When you've got these places that because of they've been there for a long time, and rent values have gone up. They're not moving out. There's no way they're moving out, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't move out, but the guy passed away, so now I'm able to get that one unit up to market value rent, and so we're just getting ready to rent that out. It's probably ready for rent 1st of March, but we'll probably end up getting somebody in April for there. Are you ready to elevate your real estate game and win in any market? Whether you're a seasoned real estate pro or just starting your journey, this event is tailored to help you thrive in any market condition. You'll hear from real estate legends such as Mark Salerno, Madeline Towns, Matt Capoli, and Dave Hutchison. We'll also bring out McMaster University Professor of Strategy, Dr. Nick Bontis, followed by an intimate panel with myself and Sam McDaddy, talking about the future of real estate teams. On May 1st, you can connect with these industry professionals, learn new strategies, and unlock opportunities to excel in the world of real estate. Registration opens next week, and you don't want to miss this event.
It's the Golfi Real Estate Show, and it's another week where we're talking about things that affect the real estate business, whether you're buying, selling, or sometimes even renting. Before we get into the next story, we probably haven't touched on this in a long time, you and I, on this show, is the old debate about whether it makes more sense to buy or to rent, because we're having so many debates these days in news and elsewhere about renting versus buying. When people come into your office or they call you on the phone and they ask, what's better for me, what do you tell them?
It depends. If you're buying, if you're not an investor, if you're not, buying a house and owning it is the right way to go. I'm an investor, so my personal residence is under my corporation, which I rent. So Rob Golfi rents a house off Rob Golfi's corporation.
Yep.
And in the business that I'm in, it's amazing. Every person out there should have some sort of business. It could be a multi-level marketing business that you never make money for years and years and years, and you just get to write off whatever you want. Well, to a certain degree, to the level of the CRA will allow you to. Okay, CRA, I just said that for you guys. Okay, so but you got basically everybody should have some sort of small business. They should, because they'd be able to. You'd be amazed at the money that you could put back in your pocket after, when you're doing your income tax. And everybody should have some sort of thing like that. Now, it could be owning one house, it could be owning a business that maybe never makes money, but you have the business, you file income tax, and you do under a sole proprietorship. Don't do it under a corporation. And what is sole proprietorship? It just means you registered a business name under your name. But a corporation is actually a separate identity. You have to do a separate income tax form for it. So it costs you money to have an account to do that for you. So it's like having 2-3 people that you have to do income tax for. So that costs money. But I think every single person should have that, because you'd be amazed how much you would get back on your income tax of having any sort of small business. It could be anything. And like you sign up, you want to sell whatever, soap, right? You want to sell soap and nobody's buying it, but you're selling it. Well, guess what? It costs money for doing different things and stuff like that. So you can write part of your house off. You can write a part of your car off. Because I drive a lot and if I got 2 cars, I can write 90% off one car and nothing on the other. So I can do that. But if you only have one car, you can only write off maybe 60-70%, just depending on what type of business you're doing. But would I buy, if a person's buying a house, back to the question, if you're just buying one house, you just want to move into, just buy it, put it under your personal name, that's fine. Now, if you're buying several houses over a lifetime, it just depends what direction you want to go. You talk to your accountant. But a lot of my stuff is under my corporation, and it'll end up passing down to my kids after I'm long gone.
There have been a lot of talk about tenants and landlords and stuff the last little while. We talk about housing on a regular basis. There was a story this week out of Barrie where a landlord just went in and turned off the utilities. Now, is this a situation where the landlord was just at his wit's end because nobody was paying up, or what was going on here?
For sure. The landlord was frustrated. He's not getting rent from these people, whether they can't afford to pay it or they just don't want to pay it, because tenants are taking advantage of the system right now because they know it's going to take a year before they go to the tribunal for a court hearing. So he just felt like, hey, I'm going there. I'm not, because obviously the utilities are under his name, and he just doesn't want to pay that anymore. He's just not interested. And he goes, why pay for these people and they're not paying me anything? And I can see the frustration of this guy. I've been in his shoes. I know what he's going through. You know what? I've had tenants in the past where, you're showing up there, they tell you, oh, come tomorrow, and you go there tomorrow, they're not there, and then you're hanging around and you're wasting all your time waiting for them, trying to get this rent from them, and they're not paying it. They're just giving you a bunch of lies. This is what's happening. This is what the Ontario government is causing. I mean, look, we in Stony Creek, Ontario, a tenant's got shot and killed because of something of a dispute with the landlord and tenants. Okay, so that's one. Now, these are just ones you're hearing about. There's hundreds and thousands of stories out there of stuff that's going on that we're not reading or hearing about in the newspapers. Now, and like this one here, the landlord got arrested because he wanted to turn off the heat and hydro. I don't blame him. Why pay for it? You're not paying. They're not paying their rent. They're not paying their no utilities. Why let these guys get away with it? They've got the money. They just don't want to pay. They're just taking advantage of the system. And I feel sorry for the guy. I've been in his shoes. I know what he's going through, and he just lost his mind. And he just says, I can't take this anymore. And now look at him. He ends up being in the newspaper. I don't think they mentioned his name or not. I can't remember if they mentioned his name, but I feel sorry if they did. But this was in Barrie, Ontario.
Is there a quick fix to this that makes everybody happy that we're ignoring?
There is a quick fix, and the Ontario government said they were adding so many new tribunal what do you call it, judges or whatever, people to speed up the process. It's not even making a difference. The way to make this is you should be able to get a court hearing within 6 weeks. You shouldn't have to wait 10 to 12 months to get a court hearing. 10 to 12 months, you'll bankrupt somebody. Somebody's got a mortgage on a house, and like a young guy, like when I started buying real estate, and I was like 20 years old. If somebody didn't pay the rent that month, I was in trouble. It came out of my pocket. And when you're 20 years old, it's not like you got a bankroll in your bank account. Like you're starting life as an adult, and you're getting going. And I've been there and I'm like, I'm knocking on that guy's door. I'm staking the guy out. Like I'm telling you, like when you're young and you don't have that much money, you're going to stalk this guy to find him where he is to make sure that you get paid rent. So some of them will pay because they don't want the hassles of you stalking them, because they go, oh God, this guy's not letting up, and so I better pay him. But sometimes people don't have the time to do that, and they just take advantage of it. But I get it. I understand. I understand what this guy's the mental aspect of the landlord. I get what this guy's going through. I get it. Now, if the tenant is being real and he's being honest and everything else, then I could see most people would be sympathetic and work something out. But for him to go there and shut it off, he's gone through a lot of crap with this tenant to want him to shut everything down. And he was willing to risk the law to do it. He was willing to. He said, I'm going there. I can't do this. I can't pay this anymore. Like, you know what the best thing for him to do is just don't pay the utilities. That's it. The utilities, let them shut you down. That's it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Don't be the landlord. I wouldn't pay for that bill anymore.
That takes a long time during the winter too, because even the utilities say middle of winter we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation. I get it. I just you know what? They got to change the laws. They got to do the tribunals earlier. You shouldn't have to wait 12 months for this. This thing should be resolved quickly. And I think if they do it quickly, people would not take advantage of the system as much as they are. So if the tenant within 6 weeks he's going to be in front of a judge, He's not gonna go through the process of not paying. So you won't the tribunal won't be as busy. But because people are taking advantage of it, that's why they're busy and backlogged, because they know they can take advantage of it. So like they got to change that system. They got to make it within 6 weeks. Go into the tribunal, and tenants will pay. They know it. Once they're in front of the judge, they'll pay.
Yeah, I hear it. It's just so interesting to watch this because everybody's got an answer, and here we sit and nobody does anything.
No, I know.
Let's talk about your business for a minute, real estate business. Pandemic hits, you guys get hit hard, and does that mean there were a whole bunch of people getting into the real estate business who didn't have a lot of experience because people were trying to find things to do? What's happening now that the business is slowed down? Have you lost people?
You know what? You do lose people because they struggle. People think the real estate business is easy, and it's not easy. You got to work it. You got to follow up. You got to make the phone calls, and you got to be in touch with everything. It's like any other business, right? You can't just start and say, hey, I'm going to be a real estate agent, and all of a sudden, you're in business. The first thing is, if you're a brand new real estate agent, your friends and family are they're more scared. They're the last ones you should approach because they know you from when you were a little kid. They know your character. You should prove yourself first before you start soliciting them for business. And I remember when I first started, I didn't want to deal with any of my family because I wanted to make sure, because family's sometimes tougher to deal with, and none of my family called me when I first started. And I didn't even approach them. They knew I was a real estate agent. If they wanted to call me, fantastic, but I did not push it on them or anything. But now my family, they all use me. Which is fantastic, and I appreciate that very much. And we've taken care of everybody that, like my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, everybody. So what happens here in real estate, I think it's even more, 40% of the agents on the that work out there don't even sell a house. So a lot of these people signed up as a realtor in the last 4 or 5 years, the pandemic, and they thought it was going to be easy, and it wasn't that easy. So a lot of them exited it, and maybe some of them will come back. But there's 100,000 realtors in Ontario right now with all the real estate boards. And Toronto has the biggest real estate board. Actually, Toronto Real Estate Board, they call it TREB, is the biggest real estate board in North America. It's got the biggest membership, and that's in Canada, United States. So, but there's probably an average of 5,000 realtors that leave the business every month. And there's probably 5,000 that enter the business every month. So the number stays stagnant. And yes, 45,000 Ontario real estate workers has hit the industry since the slowdown, but another 45,000 came in. So it's kind of misleading, the article, but it is a tough business. And I think realtors that start, especially young realtors that start, they should find a mentor that they can work with. Like I say, work under a team or something like that. If you go on your own, you can make some major mistakes that can be very costly, not only to the realtor, but could be costly for the homeowner or the home buyer. And you don't want to make that mistake because it's the most expensive piece of investment that most people have is their real estate. But yeah. 40, yeah, I could see it. I see that, 45,000. I truly think it's about 5,000 a month that come and go every month.
Was it a problem that there were too many people thinking, I can't do this job, I can't do that job right now, I got to do this? Hey, real estate, there's a job I could get into.
Yeah, it's all the shows on TV that's making it look glamorous. I
wondered about that.
Yeah, I even watch those shows. I go, wow, man, they drive nice cars, they dress nice, and and the sun's always shining over there. I go, why doesn't the sun shine here in Ontario like it does there in California? You know what I mean? Like they don't have to deal with snow and sleet and salt and all that kind of stuff there, and driving all these beautiful waxed cars and everything like that. But yeah, it is all about what people portray. And
people think that you sell $1 million house That's all you have to do for the year. You're set.
Yeah.
That's the stereotype, right?
Yeah, nah, it's not. It's not that. You know what? I'll tell you. When we put houses up for sale, it's very costly. My cost to sell a house, it's expensive. Like, and it gets more expensive the more expensive the house. Like, if you're selling a $5 million, $10 million house, I may have $50,000 of my money into that, and if I don't sell it, I don't get it back. That is my investment that I put into that house to hope that I sell it. Now, if I don't, guess what? That was a bad investment. I should have maybe it was overpriced or whatever. So some of them work, some of them don't. And high-end homes, they do sell, but they take time, and there's very few buyers in the market that can buy those. Are you ready to elevate your real estate game and win in any market? Whether you're a seasoned real estate pro or just starting your journey, this event is tailored to help you thrive in any market condition. You'll hear from real estate legends such as Mark Salerno, Madeline Towns, Matt Capoli, and Dave Hutchison. We'll also bring out McMaster University Professor of Strategy, Dr. Nick Bontis, followed by an intimate panel with myself and Sam McDaddy, talking about the future of real estate teams. On May 1st, you can connect with these industry professionals, learn new strategies, and unlock opportunities to excel in the world of real estate. Registration opens next week, and you don't want to miss this event.
We're back. Rob Golfi's here. I'm Tim Dennis. This is the Golfi Real Estate Show for this week. So, we talked about television shows. We talked about how glamorous it can appear. You see TV ads, you see print ads, online ads for house flipping as a way to make quick bucks. Buy a house, fix it up, sell it. I know there have been some stories about people who've been doing this for a while, but has the last couple of years taken the bloom off of that rose, Rob Golfi?
Absolutely. You got to be very, very careful, and you got to be really know what you're doing, and you better have a good realtor that can tell you, saying, listen, if you buy this for this much money, this is how much you're selling it for, and have a realtor that's going to give you true numbers, not a realtor that's just going to give you a high number at the end, which is not going to be true. And I usually, if somebody's looking at flipping a house, and what I do is I try to find a property that's sold, and depending on the market too, markets change month by month, so you got to be very careful about that too. So let's say there's a house for sale for, like, let's say $400,000, but there's houses are selling for maybe $550,000 to $600,000 in the neighborhood. So you got to look at and say, okay, look, here's 3 houses that sold for $600,000. This is what they had, and this is what they, what made them sell fast, like how many days on market and everything else like that. Now, if you can get this thing done, now that's another key thing is what I tell them. If you can get this house done by this date, you get listed at this number, and then you probably will end up, here's your net profit that you're going to make. But a lot of times, if they can't line those up and things don't happen, it can be in trouble. Sometimes guys will give the buyer a number saying, yeah, we can get you $750. So the buyer's thinking, okay, well, we got lots of room to put money into this house, and then he does put too much money into it, and he doesn't get the final number. He ends up reducing the price after he's all done. He's putting it up for sale. He has to reduce, and his margins are terrible. So we get a lot of that. So you got to be very careful. You got to know the end number and the true end number on that. And that's the key factor on that. Like, it's tough. Like right now, it's even tougher to find a flip. They're out there. Sometimes the higher end flips are easier than the lower end flips, but the average person can afford.
You got to have a little bit of money going into a flip, right? You can't go into it, despite what you hear on some of these sales pitches. You can't say no money down, you can flip homes too. You got to have a little bit of money to fix up whatever you're buying to be able to flip it.
You do. You do. There's no doubt about it. And you got to be careful. Some people borrow that money, and you know what? And those are the risk takers, and they take the risks. It could help them and hurt them, and it's just got to be careful. The one biggest problem that people, when they're flipping houses, is they fall in love with the house. And when I mean they fall in love with the house, is that they start buying and fixing it up, and they want to fix it to the point of putting higher end stuff in there, which they don't need to. And they fall in love, and all of a sudden now the cost of renovations is so far beyond, and it's too much. And they should have just gone the basic way. I had a friend of mine that he was looking for a house. He was in between moves, and he had an opportunity to buy this one house. And I says, buy it. And but what he did was, he's living in there, but he gutted the place and probably put $300,000 into it. I said, why did you do that? I said, this is kind of like an in between move. But I mean, anyway, he did it. He's going to probably break even on the sale of his house. Like, he's not going to make money on it because he overdid it. Upgraded the kitchen, flooring, everything. He did everything, and it did a beautiful job. There's no doubt he had no problem selling it. But the neighbor only can sustain so much money at the top level, so he will get top buck in his neighborhood. But then there's a ceiling to that, though. After that, the banks will say, you know what, like, we see the house has got all the upgrades, but this is as far as we're going to finance you on this, because the neighborhood doesn't show that it can go any higher. So you got to be careful. Don't fall in love with the renovation. Don't fall in love. I did the same thing on the house that I live in now. I started renovating it, and I go, wow, you know what? But the difference is, I started renovating it just to clean it up and get it ready for rent. But then I said, you know what? I think I like this house. I think I want to move in here. I fell in love. Then I started putting more expensive stuff in there, more upgraded stuff. But I did move into the house. But people don't move into the house, and they put expensive fixtures in there. And so you got to be very, very careful with that. Just don't fall in love with the house. Just do it. It's a business. Just do it. Like, do good quality work. But don't go crazy and blow your brains on it, and then you find out you can't get the numbers that you want.
I know Rob every week combs the news looking for stories about real estate from around the world. And this next story, you can imagine what it would be like owning real estate, owning a business, just owning a house in this town in Thailand, which I actually have been to. Barrie is near Bangkok, near the capital. But it's got a unique way of drawing tourists in, which has gotten a little out of hand, hasn't it, Rob?
It has. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. This has been going on probably, I don't know, 3-4 years now. It started escalating through the pandemic. So this little town, I think it's 90 minutes away from Bangkok, like you said, and it is infested with monkeys. Yep. What kind of monkey? I can't remember what kind of monkey it is.
Just basic simian monkeys.
Simian monkeys. You got to see this place. So, like, and I sent you some of the videos that they have in this place of these monkeys. Like, it is insane. So originally, people would go there because they did see monkeys in this town. And people would go there and feed them. It was just like a tourist attraction for that. And there was monkeys, but it wasn't like a huge population. I mean, they were around the town. Like, they didn't do much damage and stuff. People would feed them. But anyway, through the pandemic, they've multiplied like you would not believe. They say there's like over 3,500 to 4,000 monkeys roaming the streets. They're everywhere. You can't even drive fast. They're all over the streets. And they're tearing up businesses, and it's gotten so bad that businesses are leaving, and it just, like, I don't know, what would you do if let's find a small little town, okay? Yeah. Let's say Niagara on the Lake. Even let's hope that never happens, because it's a beautiful little town, Niagara on the Lake. Niagara on the Lake, they've got 4,000 monkeys roaming it, and you go there. And you're like,
there are people who live in Niagara on the Lake thinking during the summertime, the tourists coming to town, it's much the same. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
They're not all simians coming into town, but
yeah.
It's funny because during the pandemic, there were cities and towns across the world. Once we all shut down for about a year, right?
Yeah.
And nobody went to work. Mother Nature tried to fill it in, and nature took over. And some animals came back to cities that they hadn't been in years. But in this particular town, they stayed after the people came back. And I remember being in this town, and, in that part of Thailand, there were monkeys around. You would see them in the street from time to time, but it wasn't a big deal. It was like a squirrel, right? But here, you don't think twice about seeing a squirrel running across the street.
Right.
And that's the way it was there. But imagine for a moment that you now can't drive down the street without hundreds of squirrels.
Thousands. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like going
That's
up
what
to.
it's like.
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know. Like as a resident there, like, can you imagine the feces there that's happening, the smell and everything else like
Yep.
that? They're jumping all over cars. They're ripping up the moldings on cars. They're destroying the town is being destroyed now.
Markets can't put out their food because the monkeys will just eat it.
Yeah, so they're trying to catch the female monkeys and trying to neuter them or whatever, so they can't have any more monkeys. They can't go there and just eliminate them, because then you're going to get the people getting upset about that. So how do you solve this problem? People are exiting that town. People are leaving. This is going to be a ghost town if this continues. This will be a town that the monkeys take over. Hey, I guess when they made Planet of the Apes, that wasn't somebody had some kind of vision that something like that's going to happen. And look at that, in Thailand it's happened. But
they're not talking to you, but that's the only.
They're not talking monkeys. But the thing is, like, can you imagine the real estate values have come down? For sure. I wouldn't buy a house if I knew there was monkeys like that. Like, I'm looking at leaving the town. Forget about, buying another house in that town. You think new people coming in, they don't even get the tourists coming anymore. That's how bad it is. It's an infestation of monkeys. And these monkeys, man, they could be vicious if you're not careful. They leave the human beings alone. They don't bother them. But I mean, if you're walking around with a food, like a grocery bag or anything, guess what? You are done like dinner. They're coming after you. Yeah. And you got to be very careful. But like, if you go online, if you're listening to this, hit monkey, Thailand monkey, small town monkey infestation, whatever. It's crazy. Monkeys have overrun Thai town. Do that. Monkeys have overrun Thai town. Google that, and you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked what you see, and you just can't believe it.
So a few weeks ago, we were talking about the real estate market here in Niagara, and you were saying, okay, we're coming out of a rough period. Come the end of February, things are going to be to change a little bit. Hold off maybe until the spring. Are you sticking with that? Hold off until the spring, which is what?
Now, this is the spring market. You get it on. This is the time to do it right now, as we're speaking. This is the time to do it. We've listed quite a few properties, and we've gotten good money for them. We got full price for them, we're fantastic. We had one on Corwin Crescent in Niagara Falls. We said list at 500. We got 500 for it. If they listed any higher, they listed at 520 or 530 or whatever, we would have had showings, people coming and going, nothing, and then excuse me, we would end up eventually dropping the price to 500, and we probably would end up at 580, 590. So so you got to price it right. And some of them are very hard to price. Now, the one thing that the people have to understand is when we walk in there and give you an evaluation on your home, we're trying to figure what a willing buyer is willing to pay. And a lot of people always say that, the appraisals are always lower. Well, the appraisal is always lower because they go by the history of what's happening in the market. So, but at that point where I'm there sitting there, I'm trying to go at that time and forward. So realtors go based on now and forward. Appraisals go based on now and backwards because they go by history. They don't go by the future. So that's why a lot of people say, oh, appraisals are always lower. They're lower. The appraisal's bang on if the appraisal is right now. But the realtor knows what the mentality that's happening in the marketplace with the buyers, and that's why sometimes they can go a little higher than what the appraisal is. But it doesn't always work that way, but in most times it does.
You're you get people saying, I'm afraid to put my house on the market right now because people are looking for deals and I can't afford to take a bath on it right now. What do you say to them?
Well, they'll be up for sale for a long time. Like right now, the buyers are all coming out right now. And this is where the most buyers are. And there's least amount of properties for sale. The bulk of the properties will come up for sale in the next probably month and a half to two months. And that's when you have more competition and you probably will be on the market a little longer. Right now, the inventory is low. People are looking for houses. So if you put your house on the market, you're going to sell it. You're going to get good money.
Inventory change? When do they? Are you talking in the next month and a half?
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot more on the market.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing more coming on the market probably end of March, probably April. People think you need to have beautiful grass, tulips growing. No, don't. I'm telling you, people are looking for houses. It's the interior of your house they're looking for. They're looking for the curb appeal. You can see if a house has got great curb appeal even in the wintertime just by how they take care. Like, did they do their last lawn cut in October, November? Did they cultivate all the bushes and trim them down and everything? People can see that. But you know what I mean? Like, so if they see that you've taken care of that, they know the inside of the house is good and go from there.
We're going to pick up on this next week, Rob, and talk about what to do now that the market is beginning to change a little bit and be very optimistic about it. That's the next time we get together on the Golfi Real Estate Show. Good to talk to you this week, Rob. We'll talk next time.
You got it. Take care.